Hi everybody, I'm Maria Goodman, a licensed midwife and the founder of PregnantTogether, an awesome membership community for pregnant people. On this channel, I provide you with the information you need to thrive during your pregnancy. Today, I'll be showing you how babies are born from the inside. I love showing people what happens during birth for two main reasons. One, that it demonstrates that the pelvis is flexible and moving and not just a bunch of static bones. And two, we can see how the baby moves through the birth canal and is actually a very active and empowered participant through the birth process. So first of all, let me show you a little bit about the pelvis. The pelvis is made up of three main bones: the hip bones, the coccyx, and the sacrum. There are flexible joints attaching these bones together. And one thing that is important to note is that during pregnancy, your body produces a hormone called relaxin, which softens all of your muscles and ligaments and supports your pelvis's flexibility. This is super important because sometimes our bones actually need to separate a little bit to allow for the baby to pass through them, and relaxin helps with this process. So I want to demonstrate a little bit how a few positions can affect the pelvis. So if you see here, pressing on the top of the hip bones helps open the bottom of the pelvis, which is known as the pelvic outlet. So when we put a little pressure here, it really opens up the bottom of this pelvis. And this is actually a really effective way to help labor progress because it makes more space in the body. And it also feels really good for some people in labor to be touched in this way. We call it the hip squeeze. Another thing to think about is walking or doing lunges or squats during labor. So this has a similar function as the hip squeeze of just making more space in different areas of the pelvis. Many people say that walking during labor can make it go faster because it actually creates more space in the pelvis for the baby to come through. Sometimes if a baby is stuck on one side or in a little bit of a funny position, we'll recommend that the birthing person lift up one leg or move in a certain way that opens up space in a certain part of the pelvis. I think bodies are so cool. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the movements that the baby does during labor, which are also known as the cardinal movements. So most of the time, babies start out labor in this position. And as labor progresses, they tuck their chins because actually you can see that this diameter of the head is a lot smaller than this. So it's important that babies are tucked as they're beginning to come through the pelvis. So it looks like this. They're kind of tucked in like this, and they're actually kicking off the fundus, which is the top of the uterus, and moving their bodies to get through. And as a midwife, I can see often babies moving to get in an optimal position. So they come down, and then as they come through, they actually start to rotate because you can see, so the pelvic inlet, which is the beginning, is it's an oval kind of like this. And then you can also see, if you look in the middle, the biggest part is this way. So instead of like this, it turns to here, and then the outlet is open like this. So they actually have to do a lot of rotations to get through. So in the cardinal movements, they go down like this. They rotate to get through this part. And then once their heads come through, so this is the beginning of the pushing phase when they're in this position, their heads start to come through and their head is born, and then they actually do another rotation to help their shoulders get through. And then they're born that way. And all this time they're actively moving and kicking off the uterus to help get through. So if you watch a birth video like this one, you can see the baby turning on its own and doing these cardinal movements on their way out. It's really awesome to see. I love talking about this because it shows that babies are active participants in their own birth process. I think we often forget about the baby's experience, so I always like reminding people that babies are working on being born at the same time that you are going through contractions. You're actually on a team with your baby during the birth process, and I think sometimes that can make everything feel just a tiny bit easier. So I hope this video helped you understand the birth process more and also gave you some helpful tips for different positions and movements that you can do during labor. I always recommend in the weeks leading up to labor for my clients to practice squatting. So just like hanging out in a squat. I saw a study that squatting during the third trimester actually opens the pelvic outlet by something like 40%. So it's super helpful to practice these positions before going into labor and just encourage movement in your pelvis and help things get loose before labor begins. After watching this video, please comment below and let me know how you're feeling in this moment about giving birth. If you're pregnant and you're looking for some more support, check out PregnantTogether, our awesome membership site that nourishes and empowers pregnant people while they grow the next generation.